Welcome, college basketball fans, to the Full Court Press Podcast with LT and Sammy D. This is the podcast that brings you legendary stories from college basketball's golden era and dives in deep with a current analysis of today's game. Get ready for the most energetic and entertaining college basketball podcast around. Let's get it.
Hello and welcome to another Full Court Press Podcast, a college basketball experience.
What's up,
Sammy?
LP?
Oh man, I got some more news. We got another 5-star review. Number 43. Name me one player that was number 43.
I don't know that. That's a good one.
Eldon Campbell.
Really? Okay.
I think he might have been number 43.
That's a random fact. Okay.
It is. It is. You know where Eldon Campbell played in college?
I have no idea.
Clemson.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do remember seeing him in Orange. I was going to say a different Orange school, but
yes.
It's all good.
What other Orange school is there?
There's a couple Orange schools. You know, you've got
like
Auburn, Virginia. You've got a school up in upstate New York called the Syracuse Orange Crush.
They're not called the Orange Crush.
I know. What are they called? What do you got for
Orange,
me?
but there used to be called the Orange Orange Men.
Yeah, the Orange Men back in the day, man.
Yeah, you forgot University of Miami, Florida too. They're orange.
Miami, Florida too. Yeah.
And so is Tennessee. You forgot Tennessee. He was a guy that looks like he could have played at Tennessee.
Yeah, I was actually going to say Virginia. So,
do you know that Eldon Campbell just got a minute of our time, and I bet you no one else is talking about Eldon Campbell this week, last week, or next week.
Shout out to Eldon Campbell.
Yeah, check him. He's number 43. So we got another 5-star review from Mike K2. I love people's names. Mike K2. It says Mike K, Eli K, and Lila K. 5-star. Love this podcast. Best college hoops podcast. Great hosts and great guests. Always informative and fun. And he didn't put fun in capitalization. He put and in capitalization.
Oh,
so
okay.
I think that's really penetrating the ears and eyes of everybody in America. So
we do keep it fun. I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm still here. Is you make it fun, LT.
I don't know why I'm still here sometimes. I'm just here for pure enjoyment for others. But no, we've got
I do love when we're having a good time and we just throw a random question out to like a coach or player and they're like, guys, I've never heard that question before. Like, why are you asking me like what scent of a candle I would be? Or something like that.
Yes.
Like,
our next guest, our next, that was all you. And our next guest said he loved it, man. He was great. I'm going to hook up some vino, but we're going to talk today a little bit about the MIAC, the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. He actually laughed when I called it the MIAC because it's not the MAC, right? So the MAC is 1A. Now, so what is the MIAC? Like, what do you call that the MAC too with 2 A's?
Yeah, you just got to extend the A. I don't know where the me comes in, but let's just call it the Metro Atlantic. I called it the Metro Atlantic on the episode during the interview.
So
but
it's pretty.
It's a sneaky conference, though. You know, it's at St. Peter's, Quinnipiac, Fairfield, Marist, Ryder, and this
is Iona still in there? Is Iona still in there?
I believe they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yep.
Yeah. And so, but and then we're going to talk a little bit about this next program. They hired a new head coach on March 29th. And
just wait a second. You get there too soon. You're too quick. You're like a middle-aged man. Take your time.
Give the people what they want, man. They don't want to talk. They don't.
No, I want to talk about the Peacocks, the St. Peter's Peacocks. So they were fourth in conference, and they ended up winning, and then got throttled by Tennessee.
Yeah. No, they had a sneaky good conference tournament. You know.
Yeah. And you see Quinnipiac, they're bringing all their like star players back, which is crazy.
Yeah, the Metro, it's just one of those conferences where you're like, they have a really good sports culture, it feels like.
Yeah.
And Quinnipiac, I mean, hockey powerhouse, right?
Yep.
They're always like top 5 in hockey. And then St. Peter's upset Kentucky 2 years ago, I believe, in the tournament.
Yep.
And
I think everybody's upset Kentucky.
the last 2 or 3 years for sure.
Yeah.
So, were you excited to interview our next guest with kind of your background?
I've been
talk a little bit about that,
I grew up and I still am a big Syracuse
massive
fan.
Syracuse fan.
Yeah, massive. Yeah, pretty darn big. I actually worked in the 90s, the Big Orange basketball camp at Syracuse at the Carrier Dome with Coach Boeheim. I told him that at the Final Four, and he laughed. I said, "You don't remember me?" He's like, "No." But huge fan. I mean, I can go through the list. I mean, Derek Coleman, Billy Owens, Lawrence Moten, Adrian Red Autry, who's the coach.
Yeah, Ronnie Dave Bing, Pearl Washington, John Wallace.
Sherman Douglas, John Wallace. I mean, Hakeem Warwick. I mean, I know I missed and Judah Mintz. I love Judah Mintz.
Oh yeah,
Judah Mintz going to the draft. I'm pretty pissed about that. Judah Mintz going to the draft. But Eric Diendorf. I mean, I can go on Carmelo Anthony, and then our next guest is Gerry McNamara. He is the Cal Ripken of college basketball. He never missed a game. Never missed a start.
135 games, 135 starts. He, you and I were kind of talking a little bit before the interview, a couple days leading up to it, because we're just both big Gerry McNamara fans, both as a player and now as a coach. And it's hard to think of a better 4-year Big East player, right?
Ooh.
That's
tough. Yep.
I mean, when you think about his resume of work as a player during those 4 years, man, it's impressive.
Yeah. He never missed a start.
No, never missed a start. Showed up. I mean, he was the whole second half of his senior season. I think he was injured, and he talks a little bit about that during the interview. But yeah, 135 games, 135 starts. I mean, you throw in a national championship in there
as a freshman.
As a freshman. Yeah, that freshman squad was tough, man. I mean, he came in that same year that Carmelo Anthony was in there. During our interview, he talks a little bit about his relationship with Melo.
Yep.
And you go on a little wine tangent there as well, because Coach G-Max, he's a wine connoisseur. And so are you going to take care of him? Are you going to send him good stuff?
Yeah, I'm going to send him some good stuff.
Okay.
So here's the thing. We find questions that they've never been asked, and they're surprised that we're going there. So what I am really impressed is he's been at Syracuse, what was it, for like 20 years as a player, as a coach?
I mean, 4 years as a player, 15 years as a coach. He started coaching in 2009. Yeah.
Yeah, and it says something that his first head coaching job he's taken on Siena Saints. So, he's a kid from Scranton, tough, hard-nosed. I mean, I think his parents never missed a college game in 4 years. He never missed a start in 4 years. I mean, he just, and I'm excited to see if he's going to have a little like Bobby Hurley or like Danny Hurley in him.
He's got an edge, and I think that's where that whole I'm gonna let our listeners listen and do what they do. But you asked him a great question, about what the biggest difference between being a player and a coach was, and I loved his answer. I don't want to go into it because I want the listeners to listen to it. But he knew what to say right off the bat, and it just kind of eats at him a little bit, So, but yeah, I mean, it was such a fun interview. And like I said, I've been a big fan of his since 2003 when he knocked off the Jayhawks in the national championship game. And then, I mean, he basically was he was synonymous with, early 2000s Big East basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for their team, how they're going to play. They're going to be tough, hard-nosed. And I don't think he's going to put up with any crap.
No, absolutely not.
If you don't hustle, you're coming out. But they're going to be big. They're going to be really big. Like, I mean, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, I mean the four guys he has on the team is a 6'2" guard, Marcus Jackson from Albany. And then the other three guys he signed in the transfer portal that are official are Miles Wilmore, who's 6'9" from Hofstra. Peter Carey, a 6'11" guy that he's bringing over from Syracuse, and then a 7'1" freshman, Devin Bradford. Like it's gonna be like everybody should go to like the Siena basketball like Instagram page or like their website or whatever, because when he's signing these guys, he's taking pictures next to them. And I'm like, every picture of these transfers that are committing and signing with them, I'm like, Coach McNamara is not that short. I'm like, and these guys are just like a head above them, and I'm like, man, they're going to be a tough team in the Metro Atlantic. Just with their size, and I mean, they're going to be probably the best defensive team on paper when you start the season. So it's going to be fun to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, if they don't lead the league, the conference in blocks, like that's going to be interesting. That's on him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
no, I mean,
all right, let's. Yeah. Well, let's go to it, because I mean, I think they've heard enough as a rambling men. Let's check out Coach Gerry McNamara of the Siena University or Siena College. Siena University. Was it Siena University or Siena College?
Siena College.
Yeah, Siena College Saints.
It's the Saints, baby. Yeah, let's get it, LT.
All right, Sam. So you were messing with this banner that I got. Okay, I got this banner. I got this banner. See if I get it to put up, and we got the guy who was the kind of the cornerstone of that recruiting class. But what I want to know, have you ever, because you're from Scranton, Pennsylvania, have you ever pissed off Latrell Sprewell?
I wouldn't dare. I've seen how that story ends.
Yeah, and you know why? Why did I ask you that? Because there's some other pretty well-known coach from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
PJ.
Yep, PJ Clarisso. So we got
yep. PJ was a Scranton prep guy.
Yeah,
nice.
So we got Gerry McNamara from Siena. It's kind of weird to say from Siena.
Siena Saints, baby.
The Siena Saints. Yeah, the Siena Saints. Welcome to the Full Court Press podcast.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. Is it weird to hear the name Siena behind your name? Because of not anymore. You're like Syracuse through and through, right?
Yeah, not anymore. It's just been such a great transition, for me to leave. And, you got it, because you're right. I think my name has somewhat become synonymous with Syracuse basketball, 4 years as a player, 15 as a coach. But for me to leave a place that I truly love, I had to go somewhere where I thought I can match all those same characteristics. And, Siena's always been a program that I've kept an eye on in terms of being right up the road, and rich tradition, incredible fan support, great area. The playing venue is the same playing venue in 2003 that we went through to beat Oklahoma to go to a Final Four. So MVP Arena, which was Pepsi Arena back in 2003, where we had the chance to play and make a Final Four, is now the place that I get to start my head coaching career. So, everyone's going to probably always associate whatever happens from here on out in my basketball career with my time as a player and assistant at Syracuse. But, I've also paid my dues there in terms of getting the opportunity to go out and branch on my own and be prepared for it.
Yeah, so you're announced March 29th as the next head coach at Siena. Like, what were those conversations like leading into that kind of hiring process with John and the AD at Siena? And like, what was the appeal of moving? Like you said, I mean, you have been synonymous with Syracuse basketball, Big East basketball. And what was that appealing factor to kind of take your first head coaching job into Siena?
Yeah, it was really the first conversation that I had with President Seifert and John D'Argenio. Was I could feel the pride, kind of oozing from both of them. And when I talked to the president, one of the first things that he talked about was the success of graduation rate in terms of leaving the school and having employment in that first year. Just the academic side of the institution and how proud they were of it. And then obviously talking to John and his pride and the athletic side of it. it resonated with me in terms of, both of these guys that I'm speaking to have been here for 25, 30 years. I'm coming from a place that family and loyalty and consistency were kind of at the forefront. That's why we felt like we were who we were, was the consistency. So for me, making a decision to be a head coach and having an opportunity to do it at a place that, the two guys who I'm going to be working for the most, they love the place, they ooze confidence in it, and they're loyal to it. And, all the admiring factors of what drove me to choose Syracuse out of high school as a player, I had the same admiration in terms of how these gentlemen felt about Siena.
Yeah, yeah. So the Saints were 4-28 last year. Okay, the only way is you can go up, and obviously with the current landscape of college basketball, we don't really need to go into NIL and the transfer portal. So you accept the job. What is the first thing you did?
Got on the phones. But you got to factor in, there's a period before getting the job as well. There's a period of potentially getting the job. So the period of potentially getting the job, you have to be proactive in terms of who's my staff going to be, who are my targets going to be. So in case that this does fall into place and we do have an opportunity, we've got to hit the ground running. So that was really the first thing. So as soon as I realized that this is going down the road, I think we're going to finalize a contract, I hadn't taken the steps behind the scenes to feel like I was hiring the right people, getting ahead of the recruiting game, having a few conversations with student athletes of, hey, just so you're aware, this might happen. If it does happen, I'd love to talk to you about it. So we were in position to do a lot of those things, and we struck early. I think from the time that the hire happened to the time that I got on campus full time, to the time that the dead period ended after the Final Four, to the time that we were allowed to get kids officially on campus, we had a 13-day stretch where we had a kid on campus, 13 days in a row. It's like Bill Murray Groundhog Day. Like, by day 10, I was like weaving. We're working 8 a.m. to really 10:30 nights. Because we were coming back. We still had guys that we retained that we were coming back after recruiting dinners at 8:30 at night, trying to just get in the gym with them to work them out, and then getting home by 9:45. Making a few recruiting calls, and then before you know it, it's 11 p.m. and you got to get up and get a family to breakfast at 9 a.m. So I'm just really proud of the people that I put in place in terms of my staff, that they were here grinding it out with me. We're staying in a 2-bedroom apartment. Right now, my ops guy, Ryan Bury, sleeping
AKA a dorm room.
Yeah, it's basically, yeah. So, but here's the beauty in that. There's such beauty in it as far as staff bonding, it's really the most beneficial setting and scenario you could have as a staff coming in. Like, we got a lot of work done we call it the frat. We got a lot of work done at the frat late at night because we were all together talking recruiting, talking players. The grind never stopped in that stretch, and because it didn't, we think we got the job done over that time period.
Yeah. Did you guys drink any good red wine? I hear you're a red wine drinker and a golfer.
You got good sources. Yeah. You got good sources.
Man after my own heart. So let's be honest.
Yeah. If I'm out at a restaurant and out to dinner with my wife, I'm probably a house cab,
Okay.
I like to do both. I'm a house cab, and my wife sent me up with a few bottles of wine that in case I wanted to partake in an evening glass prior to bedtime, I would do that. But majority of those nights were like, you're so tired, you couldn't even enjoy yourself. Your focus was already on the next day. I think after that time period, after that 13-day stretch where we got through it, and I'm not going to put out the statistics yet because we got to sign these guys, but eventually the statistics will come out of the 9 guys that stepped foot on campus of the job we did.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah. Did you see, are you still in contact with Carmelo? He just did a big wine deal yesterday, he announced. I don't know if you saw that.
I actually have a case of his wine.
Really?
Not the one that he just did. I have another case of his wine at my house in Syracuse that will be making the trip to Loudonville with us. But yeah, I talked to him a lot. The day it was announced, he FaceTimed me and we talked. And that it's funny like that. over the last few years with he and I, like our relationship has probably gotten even stronger in terms of our friendship. You know, you got to factor in that whole stretch where he's playing professionally. Like you lose a lot. Like that dude's in a different world, you know. And as soon as he retired and stopped playing, and obviously his son Cayenne, who we were, you know, I'm not supposed to talk about, but I'm not there anymore, you know.
So you're not recruiting him to Siena?
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes, you know. But, you know, obviously we've, you know, we're always going to be tied together, and I'm just so proud of the career he's had, and I'd love to see this side of his journey of being dad now, being that crazy parent that's yelling and enjoying every second of his son playing. It's kind of nice to watch.
Yeah, you should hire him as an assistant coach.
I don't know if he'd be any good at skill development. I don't know how.
That's good. So you said the first thing you did was kind of get on the phone, and I do want to get into the coaching staff that you put together, because there's definitely some themes with that East Coast kind of New York, everything from pro careers to legendary high school coaches that you put on your staff there. But I want to talk about some transfers that you got. You know, Marcus Jackson, Miles Wilmore, Devin Bradford, you know, Peter Carey that you brought over from Syracuse as well. You guys got some size.
Yeah, we do. And, you know,
that's great. Like, 3 of those guys are 6'9" and taller. You know, like,
it's funny. The 4 guys you mentioned are all signed, so I can actually talk about them. So you guys we got
your our first rodeo, coach.
Yeah. So yeah, we're obviously, I was really excited. You know, Miles was the first one. He had committed prior to even the press conference when I was announced. So I'm just really, really happy. I watched a lot of him in high school at the City Rocks. His size, his ability to guard multiple positions, his ability to shoot the basketball. We all know the game is trended that direction. You need guys to be able to shoot the perimeter shot. You know, so I'm really happy to add 6'9", 230 of a guy that's a high major talent, and now we get an opportunity to coach him here. And then he did his official visit after he committed. He did it with Peter. So to have Peter Carey, who, you know, I've grown, you know, close with over the 2 years at Syracuse, for Peter to come in, and Peter committed right before he left at that dinner. You know, so to walk away from your first night on the job of where you can have visits, and you know you have 2 kids committed, to add Marcus Jackson, who I love. I love everything about him. I love his mentality. I've recruited Andre really hard, so I got to know the family incredibly well.
Albany native too, huh?
What's that?
Albany native as well.
Yeah. Albany Academy. Played for Frush, and I called Trish, his mother, when Marcus went into the portal, and she answered the phone. I said, "Trish, I'm not trying to go 0 for 2. I miss Trey. I'm not missing Marcus." You know, so he's a guy that as soon as I saw his name, I said, "You know what? I just love." The thing I love about him most, he's obviously a talent. The thing I love about him most is he could care less about his individual statistics. He judges his performance based on if he won or lost the game. And I love guys like that. I do. They're willing to lay it on the line for you. As a coach, that's all you could ask for the guys you work with. And I know for a fact when I get Marcus Jackson, I know what he stands for, what he's about. His brother was the same way. And then Devin Bradford, who we felt like we got lucky with in terms of his level of talent to be available for us to recruit at 6'11", 7 foot, to be able to shoot it. He's got to add strength, but most freshmen do. But his size and his ability to stretch you on the perimeter, like that's, like we just talked about it, that's the way the game is trending. And then if you watch his highlights, it's not just that he's a rim protector. It's that when he blocks a shot, he stays in the possession. You know, you hear all the old head guys, they talk about like really good shot blockers can contest block a shot and stay in that possession and have a chance to corral the possession, to get the ball. And if you watch him defensively, he alters shots, but he still pursues the basketball. And I love that about him. So, you know, with those 4 guys that we could talk about that are all signed, you know, I feel like we've obviously got skill, we've got length, athleticism, we've got toughness, we have winning attributes, and those are the things I'm looking for.
Yeah. How would the conversations go with kids that potentially are looking to return to Siena? I mean, how does that conversation go? I mean, you don't really know the kids. I mean, you obviously might have done some film study or some stat study. Like, how is that conversation? Because, I mean, you look at some of the other ones. We're both DePaul graduates. He had to sign and recruit 13 new players.
Yeah.
How does that go for you?
So when I got the job, obviously there was multiple weeks in that stretch where majority of the guys had already been in the transfer portal. So my first thought was I'm going to respect this. I think the guys that are in the portal have made their decision. I don't intend on re-recruiting any of them. That was my thought process going in. I thought it was just probably the right decision for everybody. The guys that hadn't entered the portal, I made it a point to contact prior to getting on campus. So I was named the head coach. I did the press conference. Before doing the press conference, I had conversations with multiple guys that were not in the portal. And then obviously the following week when I'm on campus full time, I sit in my office right where I am right now and had those conversations. And a lot of guys that were in the portal came in and had those conversations. But I think the biggest question I probably asked those guys more so than anything was, is this where you want to attend school? Do you love it here? If you love it here, it'll work, because you got to love where you are. And I think with the guys that we've retained, it was pretty evident right away that they had a certain love for the program and for the school. And then the conversation breaks down from there in terms of, what I expect in terms of moving forward from the basketball side of things. And are we going to align? Is this going to be an issue for you? And all those guys were like, Coach, I'm ready to move forward. I'm excited. I hear good things about you. I've done my research, those type of things. And, I did obviously the same on my end for these guys. And they were great. Like I said, those late at night workouts, my assistants were really good when I couldn't, because I was entertaining a recruit. They were working them out. And they gave us everything they got in that time period that we were allowed to work with them prior to finals. So I feel really good about who we've retained in terms of who they are as people and what they're going to add and bring to the table as we move forward as a program.
Sam's going to ask a question, but I want to touch on this. With the way the transfer portal has gone, can you imagine having to re-recruit your whole team every year?
Well, I'm going to. I can't imagine.
It's especially if these players really do well for you during the season.
It doesn't matter. I mean, you could have a player do really well for you. You could have a player that's miserable. Either one is just as just as likely to make a decision to enter the portal. The way I've likened this, and I don't like it, but when I leave Syracuse as a player and I go play professionally, I signed a deal with Olympiacos in Greece, EuroLeague team, and majority of the American guys that play overseas, if you ask them, what's the length of your contract?
1 year.
Right. And why is that? So
no, depending if you're playing in Russia, it might be 1 hour.
Yeah. Depending on it. Yeah. So the reason for that is you want to sign your 1 year deal because every guy is going in to be like, I'm going to outplay the terms of my contract and sign a better deal the following year with a higher team or more money or whatever. And that's the way that it's kind of trending. And I said it, it's funny, Red Autry and I talked about this when we were still both assistants at Syracuse, and he wasn't even the head coach yet. And he played 10 years overseas. I said, Red, man, this is going to end up being like playing overseas. He's like, what do you mean by that? I was like, I think these kids eventually are just going to be on 1 year deals if they open this up, which they have, of unlimited amount of transfers. And that's the hard part. Like, to me, it's like, all right, you open it up and it's like, all right, penalty free one time you can transfer. And then now, they don't have a leg to stand on in a lot of ways, the NCAA right now, and everything's getting, we're going to bring you in court on this. We're going to bring you in court on that. So they're like, all right, well, I don't have much control of the NIL. I don't have much control of this. And that's kind of the nature we're in. It's, you got a number of factors. You got the portal, you got fifth-year kids, the COVID, and now NIL. And then on top of all that, you can transfer as many times as you want. So that's what we're dealing with. And I don't love it. But what's the point of complaining about it? Because everybody's in the same boat I am.
Hey, none of your records will ever be broken at Syracuse.
Yeah, right. There'll never be a 4-year player to shoot as many threes as I did.
Yeah, no, like we have the privilege of talking with a lot of coaches, and they're all kind of in the same. They're like, we don't know what it's going to look like 2 years from now or next year, and like it seems like there's just this moving target with the NCAA, and it's I do think you've got age on your side where obviously you'll have time to figure it out. Where there's a lot of coaches in their late 50s, 60s, even early 70s who are like, we don't want to figure this out.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it.
So you've mentioned your assistants. I want to learn a little bit more about how you handpick these guys. Ben Lee, New York native. Is it Arenz? Yep. Maryland native, East Coast guy, played at Syracuse. Ryan Blackwell, who I'm super excited about joining the college ranks, Syracuse legend, but he's just had an incredible high school coaching career in New York. And then you brought over Ryan Berry from Syracuse as a step up in his career as director of basketball ops. Like, what was kind of the thought process and timeline that you wanted to kind of put your staff together? And, are you happy with, where you're at with these guys?
I think I knocked it out the park. I do. And for a number of reasons. I think Ben, obviously being at Washington and working for Mike Hopkins, who's one of my mentors, that's just an added bonus. Ben and I had created our own relationship, and I just really admired his evolution so quickly. And I knew his work ethic. So, to me, it was important to hire guys that I could trust, that are going to be really good on the court, that can recruit. So Ben was really kind of my behind the scenes right-hand man as far as the first guy that he and I were working really, really closely together before I actually was named the head coach, just in case it happened. And he's grinded it out. He's flown in from Washington and stayed in the frat. So he's been right there every step of the way. But he just understands the landscape, working with Made Hoops, coming through the high school grassroots ranks, working through GA, working his way up as assistant because Hopwood didn't want to lose him. And I know Hop, so I know how he thinks of him. So to me, he's a home run hire, knows this area. He's back on the East Coast. Ryan, I'm really excited about, as you mentioned, because I've known him for so long and I know what type of coach he is. I know who he is. He's got such a great demeanor about him. He never gets too high, too low. He's really good on the court. He's a very, very smart basketball mind. And anybody that knows him, Ryan just needs the opportunity to get in front of people. Like, recruiting is all about, can I get the experience to learn it? And I'm giving Ryan the experience to learn it because I know every family he talks to is going to love him because every bone in his body is genuine. He's a good person. And one thing is you take over a job, and especially a first-time head coach as myself, I value what Ryan's done. I don't care what level it's at. You've been a head coach. You've done it. You've won a state championship at Liverpool High School. And I told him that in our initial conversations, like, Ryan, I value you, when we talked about what his responsibilities would be. So I'm really excited about him getting his opportunity. I think he's earned it. Arenz, I'm excited about because he's made the transition from, 10-year pro career or whatever it may be to taking the steps forward of showing me, showing everybody I want to coach. And he did that with 2 years in the G League. He did that spending last year with Gonzaga High School, which is one of the premier best high school programs in the nation. And our story is interesting because Arenz was a freshman when I was a senior at Syracuse. And then he had a knee injury, so did a fifth year because he had a red shirt for a medical. So when I came back after playing 3 years pro, Arenz was one of the first. That was my first team, was that 2009, 2010 team, which is like still to this day, one of the most connected groups I've ever been around as a coach. And Arenz was one of the first guys in terms of like a skill development that I worked with on his free throw routine to help him there. So I just understand his passion and he wants to move forward in coaching. And you got to, talk about these guys, how good they're going to be on the court, the knowledge that they could share to the players that we're going to have. And then Ryan Berry, I love him. Like, he is, I said it in the press conference or in the press release, he's a Swiss Army knife. He does everything. Like, he's like 2 doors down from me right now. Well, listen to this. I actually got a really good story about him. Brian Berry, I was up in Glens Falls, New York, recruiting Joe Girard. I see Coach Berry for St. Rose. He comes over to me and said, hey, he's like, GMAC, I got my nephew's going to Syracuse. Is there any way he can interview for a manager position? And I looked at him. I said, he just interviewed. He got the job. And he like, you're crazy. I was like, send me his number. I'll connect with him this week. Kid ends up being one of the best managers I've ever worked with. He works with me for 4 years as with the guards in skill development. We hire him as our GA. He does such a good job there. We hire him as our video coordinator. So when I had the opportunity, when he asked me, like, hey, GMAC, do you got anything? I felt lucky because I knew what he brought to the table. He can coach. He's incredible with video breakdowns. He's doing gear. He's a home run, and he's a terrific coach. So this guy's going to be on the sidelines at some point. He's got the pedigree. We know what his uncle was capable of. He's got the same demeanor. The kid's a stud. So I'm just really, really happy. I'm really blessed that I can. There's so many factors I felt like I touched. I felt trust is most important. Can these guys get players better? Can they recruit? And what's the atmosphere going to be like in this building? Yep. And it's going to be excitement. These guys bring energy to the table. And, I'm thrilled to go into this. I didn't feel fully confident until I had my last hire. Then I'm like, let's go. And it was because of the pieces I felt like I had around me.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it feels like the pieces you put on the court as well as on the sideline with the coaches. I mean, it's very kind of blue collar mentality. Like it's going to be fun to watch this Siena Saints because it's like I feel like every single play they're going to be playing their hearts out. It seems like that's the common theme with
both. Better.
Yeah, right.
You got no choice in that matter. Yeah. That's non-negotiable.
I know. I can see that that's part of your blueprint, though. As like your first head coaching job. Like you're putting these pieces together, but like that seems to be the common theme that these guys, like everybody who we've talked about, is just a hard worker.
And that's you got to understand. Like out in front of me is I'm sitting at my desk. I don't have anything on the walls yet. I still got boxes in the corner. Like that can wait. So when I had my final sit downs with all the kids that came through my office and their families, I used the same analogy with all of them. I said, listen, the computer I'm talking to you guys on right now, I'm the same computer I'm going to be watching game film on. And after every game we play, I want to close it and look down at it and say, I mess with this group. I like this group. They give me everything they got. They play hard. That's what I want. So every kid that was in my office understands the expectation of what I'm looking for because I told them I was transparent in it. They understand the expectation of what role they need to fill. So I think that's why we've had the success that we've had and the guys that we've recruited because we've been intelligent in terms of who we were going after. We had a definitive role and piece for them. We had a vision for it. And I was transparent in terms of what's expected when you get here. And I think this place sells itself. It does. Mm-hmm. Place is special. You walk through the campus, it's special. You talk to the people, they're special. So, I think 4-28 is one thing, but history is another. This place is proven in terms that it can flip. It can flip quick. We're in the process now with the portal that you can flip it quick. And, that's my expectation. I want to win right away.
Hey, his starting lineup's going to be 6'10", 6'10", 6'10", 6'11", 7'5". No one's ever going to get a shot up. So, hey, you'll have great defense, coach.
I still got to be able to score. To score. So
that's true.
If you look at what we've done and there, like we talked about, I can't talk about all the guys, but if you look at what we've done, there's still one more, I think, on the board that we're waiting on. And,
Coach, what does his name rhyme with?
I can't tell you that. It might not rhyme with anything. But we felt like we touched early on with the front court, and then late we filled the back court. And then, as you've seen these few acquisitions, you have to factor in point production as well. So as you look towards ceiling and, there's a fine line between potential and productivity. So a lot of guys have potential, but you need the production too. Yep. And some of the pieces that we've fill some of the scoring production that we were looking for. So we feel like early on, we really, really filled the front court and matched the athleticism and how I want to play from the perimeter. And then late, we pieced together the rest of the roster in terms of the backcourt.
Are you looking at like where the Metro Atlantic, like the conference is at the time that you're putting this roster together to see like how best you're going to be able to compete against like the St. Peter's, the Quinnipiacs, Fairfields, Riders, like stuff like that?
Yeah, not necessarily. I think my focus needed kind of be on how I want to play and how I envision playing. And the big thing is a lot of these acquisitions that we've gotten, there's versatility in them. There's multi-positional pieces that you could play. I feel like we've got with some of these guys, you look at a guy like Miles Wilmot because of his size, like is there a stretch where we do play small ball 5? where he's at the 5. You know, there's guys that play the 2 that can really play the 3. There's guys that play the 3. You look at a guy like Michael Ojo, you know, with his athleticism returning, he could play multiple positions. He's got to slow down a little bit in terms of how he plays. I love his upside, his ceiling. I think he's got to corral the speed that and simplify a few things, but he shot it really, really well by the end of the time leaving here before break. So I just feel like with the guys we've added, with the guys that we returned, there's a lot of versatility in the lineups that we can manipulate.
Yeah, Sam, let's get him going here.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. We do a little segment where LT is going to ask you, just fire off 5, 6, 7 questions. You know, first thing that comes to your mind, just let us have it. LT,
the one shot you will always remember.
Georgetown sophomore year buzzer beater. No time left on the clock.
Yeah,
road game.
Yeah.
I actually got a good story if you have time for it.
Let's hear it.
Let's go.
So, if you watch the film, my sophomore year, I hit a game winner at buzzer beater at Georgetown. I run to the other end of the court. Someone ran off of the front row and grabbed me and was like celebrating with me, a Syracuse fan, younger guy. So fast forward 2.5, 3 years later, it's commencement at Syracuse. I think we have to be there at 10. We were supposed to be there at 9:30. So Mike Macabika and I, who's a coach at Florida Southern, who is my roommate, Mac and I walk in late. We have to walk in with Newhouse. We're not even in the Newhouse school. So we're sitting in the wrong section at commencement. So halfway through the thing, Billy Joel is the commencement speaker. The guy next to me, after like an hour, he nudges me. He's like, hey, you remember your game winner at Georgetown? I'm like, yeah, of course. He's like, you remember the fan that ran out on the court and tackled you and security came out and dragged him off the court? I was like, yeah. He goes, that was me. Like randomly all those years later, the random guy that ran on the court I sat next to because I walked in at the wrong time for graduation.
That's crazy. That's a good story.
Funny. All right. Funniest teammate or worst wingman pickup liner or best dressed or dancer?
Funniest teammate, Matt Gorman. My 4-year college roommate. Funniest still to this day. Funniest human being I've been around.
Okay. What about worst? What about goofiest teammate?
He'd probably match the same.
Okay.
Eric Devendorf is up there. Eric Devendorf's right up with goofiest.
Okay. Best advice Coach Boeheim ever gave you?
Don't overcomplicate it.
Okay. That's a good one. Biggest difference between being a player and a coach?
The anxiety that I can't impact the game physically. It's awful.
Well, you can. I mean, you can run on the court like Coach Hurley from UConn. We're watching him at the Final Four. He's like pushing guys.
Yeah, Shaka plays defense in the corner, and apparently he gets extra fouls. So see how far. I got to win a few games before I can push those boundaries.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you as a head coach. It's gonna be awesome. Okay, as a player, the team you hated most?
UConn and Pittsburgh.
Okay, and Pittsburgh. Okay,
yeah, they were really, really. I mean, UConn obviously still, but Pittsburgh. Jeff's done a great job, but that time frame in the Big East, like we were the 3.
It's crazy. Yeah,
the 3 winningest. So I think they're the only 2 teams in the league that I had a losing record over that 4-year stretch.
So you're saying you have a rare affection and love for Georgetown then?
I was like 8-1 in my career against them. Like, yeah, they're not that bad. They're good people.
Yeah, I'm sure. This is a Sam question. If you were a candle scent or a candle, what scent would you be?
Eucalyptus mint.
There you go. Just wants to go to sleep and relax.
Yeah, no doubt. There's nothing better than the smell, like, the one every 7 years that I go to a spa.
Wow. It's funny. I think it's kind of like a scary question to ask, but every coach we've asked Coach Frank Martin, and he was like that, like you. So that's pretty impressive.
What was his scent?
What was it, Sam? Wasn't it like lavender something?
Yeah, I think it was it's like a lot of the coaches who just have so much passion. You could they're just like I something that calms them down a little and takes a deep breath. So
I thought he would be more like tropical fruit, passion fruit because of his Cuban background. The Cuban background. All right, the song that best describes you.
If you have a walkout song, your first home game at Siena next year, and you get to pick it, what would it be?
It's Pearl Jam.
Mhm.
Probably Release.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice. Good
So
choice.
they're doing a Hollywood movie about you. Who would play you?
Rory McIlroy.
Are
And
you that good of a golfer?
Well, I've been told I look a little bit like Rory.
there you go.
Okay. Well, you won nothing, you got nothing, and now we know what kind of candle scent your kids should get you for Father's Day in a couple weeks.
So
I got them. I actually got them one year for Christmas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
There you go. So I got one extra question for you. It goes back to your playing days, and I know you've talked a lot about your playing days throughout, the past couple decades. But you win a national championship in 2003. At that time, it's probably got to be one of the sweetest moments, in your life. But then your senior year, you got kind of hit hard with the media, right? Especially towards the end of the season, leading into the Big East tournament, and then you kind of proved everybody wrong. I mean, you showed up at that Big East tournament, you're cutting the nets down in a shirt that says overrated, and kind of the pinnacle. Like, what was a little bit sweeter? Was it winning that national championship at such a young age, or was it kind of being that senior leader that kind of overcame kind of all that public adversity, I'll put it, and injury too, you battled through,
Yeah, I played like 20 games with a stress fracture in my pelvic bone. Nothing sweeter than being the last team standing as a national champion. But there was something sweet about walking away, like that week from, I said to my dad, there was actually right before they announced to me to actually come up. Hang on one second. I'll show you.
All right.
This message brought to you by Menin.
Right before I went up to get this guy.
Man, that's sweet. Yeah.
I said to my father, a lot of people ate their words this week. And he said, "You're damn right." So the frustrating thing for me was I was dealing with it at the end of my career, which I felt like was kind of unjust. Like at this point, haven't I done enough in terms of like really, but it was a student newspaper that, so you're dealing with students, but where I was really frustrated was what I was laying on the line physically every night. People didn't see that battle, that they didn't see Coach Boeheim like literally not practicing me just so I'd be available to play because of the pain I was dealing with. So that's why I was really, really sweet at the end. Just muster up enough over a 4-day stretch to be like, take a hike.
Man, no, I loved watching that 4 days of the Big East tournament, and I was a student at the time. But it was like, to me, that's what college basketball is about. It's like just laying your heart on the line, and if you're able to play, you're on the court. And when you guys won the championship, I was a Kansas fan at the time, so I skipped night class to watch that game on Monday night, and I was like, man, but it's all good. And
it was 81-78, if you don't remember the score.
I remember you made like 6 threes in the first half, and I think I broke a remote control, and it's all good.
0 in the second half.
Yeah,
but let's focus on the positive. Let's focus on the positive,
positive day, yeah.
It's all good. So we're gonna let you off here, Coach, but I do want to turn it over to you just for a minute, give you the platform if there's anything you want to share with kind of the Siena Saints fan base, alumni, boosters, student section, anything that they should be looking forward to during kind of the summer and leading into kind of your first season as head coach there.
Yeah, just the excitement level from our side. Obviously there's excitement in transition, and I think you could feel it with the fan base that everybody's kind of looking forward to flipping the page after, a tough year. But just how excited we are, like, to be here, to have this opportunity to coach a great program. And I think the one thing that I'll say, and I said it in my press conference, is we're going to put a product on the court that you can appreciate, that you're going to be proud of. That's the most important thing to me, is closing that computer and everybody watching a game and being like, man, this group fights. They fight regardless of scenario, situation. They fight. I've always felt like the best coaches, regardless of how your team, good teams win ugly. You've heard that saying for years. It's a cliche, but the reality of it is good teams win ugly because they're willing to do the little things when they're not playing well to win. And that's the mark of a winner. of bringing winning attributes. And those are the players I want to coach. I want guys that lay it on the line, regardless of individual statistics. That happens. That happens in the end. Everybody wins when you win. Everybody gets recognition. It's about efficiency, making quality basketball plays. And inside the lines, you're willing to do whatever it takes. Yeah. And, it's my job to connect them. We've got to be so tight and connected that you saw it. I know Coach Hurley talked about it. Like, he works with a group that's incredibly talented, that doesn't care who gets the credit. And if you can create a culture like that, where you've got guys that their main singular focus is winning, and they truly care about the person next to them, it doesn't matter who gets the shine, because we're all in this together. And that's my job to create. But I feel like I've accumulated the talent to hopefully create it. That's the most important. You got to be talented at this level too. And that's my job to go out and get it. It's my job to create unity and connection. The biggest thing is, this fan base can be proud of the product that's on the court, because they're going to fight night in and night out.
Yeah. Well, Coach, you're going to stick with us for one more second, but hey, don't forget to follow the Siena Saints this year in the MEAC, the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, and with Coach. And thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We'll be back next week on another Full Court Press podcast, a college basketball experience.